Welcome back to the Heat Check Podcast. I am your host, Chris Patrick, and joining me today, as always, are my amazing co-hosts. First, we have the king of sake bombs, Michael Benjamin.
What up, fellas? I am no longer a spring chicken. That is the least I can say.
Had a birthday, and he's starting to feel it. Had a nice steak and chicken dinner last night, and not recovering as quick as he used to. But we can't forget to mention also joining us, Zach Davies' marriage counselor, VSP Tallman. Welcome back.
What is up? I was not successful at my job, apparently.
Couldn't save that one, could you?
No, I could not. It was a lost cause.
Maybe you can help him with his pitching career next.
No, I think that's also a lost cause.
It's going to end up the same way as his marriage.
It is.
All right. Well, shoot. Well, hopefully the Dbacks can get some help. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We got the trade deadline coming up August 1st. Suns have made some more moves here in the offseason and some news on their TV deal. And then also we're going to talk and lead off here talking about the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, and all that shenanigans that's been going on. You know, guys, here in the summer, it's a bit of a dead time for sports, especially after the MLB All-Star break. Baseball's the only thing going on, and now the Diamondbacks are slumping a little bit. So it's been a tough month of July. So hopefully August brings us some more joy, and then of course the NFL regular season starting in September. So plenty to look forward to, plenty to break down here, but. Guys, I want to go and talk about this first. This week, I think it was the beginning of this week, we saw the Cardinals come out with another one of their flight plan videos, which is just like a little mini documentary they put out on their YouTube channel. Excuse me. And this one kind of centered around Kyler Murray and his recovery and rehab and coming back, and kind of dove into a little bit of his personal life, a little bit of what his rehab has been like, and kind of showed a bit. So I told these guys they had to watch it so we could come in here and talk about it. Tallman, I'll pass it over to you first. What were your initial takeaways from that flight plan episode?
I thought it was great. I think we got to see a different side of Kyler Murray. I think that was kind of what we were expecting to see with the HBO Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
But then I can't really speak fully to that because after like 4 or 5 episodes, I said, screw this is horrible, I'm not watching this anymore. After they withheld a lot of juicy details, I said this is just not worth it. So maybe Kyler had more exposure. I have no idea, but it seemed like how it started off, we thought that Kyler would be like the main focus point, but it was awesome seeing what was it, 20 minutes long,
something like that.
Yeah,
right,
it was like
that.
So it was 20 minutes of just him going through his rehab. So that was good. I mean, he looks like he's in good shape. I felt like he was either getting rubbed down by a trainer or getting a haircut the whole time.
I think both, honestly. I think both of those things happened.
Well, no, it was good. It's promising. I think at the end, I know we're probably going to really pick apart the last minute of that video. Him saying that he would like to be back at the beginning of the season for game 1. But overall, I mean, it was good. I mean, you got to see what our franchise quarterback, how he acts, who he is, how he is going through this recovery. So I didn't mind it at all. I thought it was great.
I would agree with that. I think it definitely showed. I mean, at least he's talking the talk of having grown up a little bit. I know he made like a passing little joke comment about everyone thinks I'm a professional Call of Duty player.
I love that
and
part.
I thought that was pretty good. And his explanation was fair. I know I've been extremely critical of him on that aspect of it, but he really just said it's a way for him to stay in touch with his friends who are playing all over the country, and they can come together online and unwind playing some COD. I mean, at the end of the day, we all do the same thing.
That's what we do.
Yeah,
exactly.
But it's tough. The optics of it are just so tough when you lose a game and then within 2-3 hours you're on your Twitch live stream. Like, it's one thing to play with your friends, but then another thing to jump on a live stream and do it. And whether that's fair or not, I guess, is a different conversation, and don't need to go down that rabbit hole again. But Mike, I'll ask you the same question. Like, what were your takeaways, and do you think that it made Kyler more likable?
More likable, I would say so. I mean, I always love seeing more of a candid view of our favorite players and, our mainstays for each of our teams. And, Tallman hit it right on the head. I think it was a lot more candid than anything we got during Hard Knocks. And, it really showed the human side of Kyler Murray at the end of the day, talking about how it was his first time really going through a severe type of injury like this basically in his life, and your psyche can go so many different ways, and it seems like he is in a good place right now, not only with his rehab, but just his mental state and pushing forward and knowing that he has to come back stronger than he was, right? Because the progression for Kyler Murray is he needs to take those jumps in his game. He needs to take the next level for this team to be successful. So, man, I was very impressed with his ability to kind of open up about, just all that kind of stuff. Reading the room, talking and having some dialogue about the video game stuff as well. It shows that, these athletes, man, they're tuned in. The age of social media, it's not like these guys don't know what's going on or what's being said about them. So to take it head first and it kind of explain himself is good as well. But I really hope this kid can come back in a fast form, but we also don't want to, stretch him too thin. Like,
Yeah.
He's got to be healthy. We just have too much of a capital investment in him. And now I would say I have a little bit more emotional investment in Kyler Murray as well, because I like the kid. He seems grounded. Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's cute.
So long-winded answer, Chris. Yes, I would say that it definitely helped some people who might have been against Kyler Murray, kind of turn to the light, I guess.
Yeah, and I'll say that for myself. I'm in that camp for sure, where, like I said, I've been highly critical of Kyler's on and off the field, whatever. I don't know if antics is the right word, but just demeanor maybe. But I'm definitely buying more into Kyler, and it's really like you touch on not wanting to rush him back and having it be a healthy timetable, because in theory, this guy's going to be our franchise quarterback for at least the next 5 years, half a decade. And how often, I mean, more so recently, but how often have we seen star players, like quote unquote star players, want to be here and be in the Valley? And it seems like he does want to be an Arizona Cardinal. You mentioned also him hearing all the noise, and kind of like DeAndre, and he hears the hate. All these players, they're tuned in, they know what's going on, and it's got to be tough, man. I mean, going through that whole contract negotiation, there's all these talking heads and guys like us being critical, saying things when it maybe it wasn't being led by him, probably wasn't. It was probably more so his agent and his family and his whole camp kind of leading the negotiations there. But then obviously the Call of Duty criticisms and other things like that, where he's dealt with all that criticism from even some of his own teammates, former and present. And the fact that he still has a pretty solid head on his shoulders and seems to have a good mentality about it. I know there have been a couple people who honestly said like Kyler needed this. I mean, an injury sucks. It's a major setback, but it almost kind of gave him a reset where he's able to ground himself, do some reflecting, not having to focus on the football stuff quite as much, to where in theory, it looks like he might be in a better place, and when he does come back, hopefully he's ready to fire on all cylinders. New offense. I think that's one of the biggest question marks right now, is what kind of situation is he going to be put in with Gannon and the OC? Who is that guy again? Anybody know?
Oh, the Browns quarterback coach. God.
Drew Petzing, or is he the defense?
No.
I think Drew is defense.
Drew's defense. Well, one of you guys pull it up here while
I'm sorry.
while
We
I
should
keep
know
chatting.
it. Oh, you nailed it. And I said
It was
no.
Drew Petzing.
Yeah, Drew Petzing.
All right. Well, okay. So Drew is, again, a young guy getting his first chance in an OC position. Maybe that'll be good. He will be able to maybe collaborate with Kyler a little more, rather than just having Cliff come down with the iron fist and say like, this is the way it's going to be. But regardless, I would love to see Kyler back week 1 if he's ready. But at the same time, it still doesn't so much seem like we have a roster built for success. I mean, in all these power rankings, all these preseason rankings, the Cardinals and their players are still coming in middle to bottom of the pack there. And it's just, that's why I'm kind of in the camp of not rushing him back. But at the same time, it's more or less a prove it year. The Cardinals and this new regime, if you want to call it that, need to know what they have in Kyler Murray, especially when we're facing the potentiality, if that's a word, of having the first round pick next season. And do we take another quarterback, get rid of Kyler? Those are a lot of tough questions that are going to be asked here. While we're still talking about the flight plan episode, though, what'd you think of Kyler Murray's dad on that episode?
Was it Mr. Kevin Murray? Obviously, he's still a big part of Kyler's life, which, hey, no problem at all. I mean, he's a proud dad, right? He wants to see his child succeed, but you could tell, what was it? They're throwing the ball out back.
Yeah.
And the producer or whatever asked Kevin Murray, how many times do you guys do this? Every day. We do it every day. So,
yeah.
But what that really is really showing us is, I mean, think about this kid's upbringing. Like, it seems like he's that type of dad, that parent that's like, hey, this is all you're going to do. You're going to play football. You're going to play baseball. Right? And then he even went, Kyler even explained it too. Remember how he said he's never really taken a vacation before?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, or even like if his club football team had to travel, oh no, well, he can't go or do anything because he's got to go play baseball, or they can't go on a family vacation because he's either playing football or baseball.
Yeah.
So it just speaks to, like, the kids had a sheltered life, man. And I think that's a huge part of us sitting here and debating his leadership skills and his maturity, because he's come out and, I mean, he's a multi-millionaire, right? He's had, like, what we're experiencing, this type of sheltered life, and how do you grow and be super mature when you have a dad like that that's just maybe overbearing? That might be the wrong word. That might be a bad way to describe his father-son relationship, which I don't want to sound bad. It sounded like he cared. The dude cared, right? But,
for sure.
Man, he's definitely a part of that. He's definitely a huge part of that kid's life. And I call him a kid when he's not really. He's an adult.
It's all about perspective, right? But I totally agree. Like, that's one thing I wrote down right away is Kyler Murray's dad. I wrote overly intense football dad. Like, I always think in my brain, there was this kid I went to school with, elementary and middle school. I think also high school. I'm not going to mention his name here, but he played soccer. And I remember he had one of those, like, overly intense sports dads where, like, when all the other kids were out having fun with their friends on a Friday night, I would drive by the elementary school and his dad had like 30 soccer balls and just having him kick soccer balls over and over again. That kid ended up being a great middle school soccer player. I think he played a little bit in high school, but then he fizzled out. He didn't want to do it anymore. Like, great talented kid, but his heart wasn't in it. His dad's heart was in it. And Mike, you're around youth sports a lot, so you probably see some of this. Like, it's a pretty fine line, right, between being a supportive parent versus maybe living vicariously through your kids and their sports dreams.
And I feel like sometimes it's hard to really stick within the median, right? Because you don't want to push your kid too much to make them hate the sport or want to get out of it. But you also, if you do have goals, or more specifically, it has to be if your kid has the goals to pursue playing, even at the high school level, you do want to give them those opportunities, to go in clinics, play in, travel teams, do all the right things so they're prepared at a level to do that. It's funny, man. When he started talking, I was like, "Oh, was he in the Army in the past? Like, do we know that? Was he a drill sergeant?" Like, I got that vibe immediately.
I don't think he was.
He was intense though, like in his eyes,
he
like,
was.
every day.
He was
every day.
Every day.
He was, but I can never, I'm never going to speak down on somebody who's, a father figure who's a critical piece of somebody's life, and it's led to the success that Kyler Murray has seen within his life. Not only on the football field, but, he was a great baseball player as well. Like, we know that he was drafted by the Oakland A's and had an opportunity to go there as well. But
his dad was drafted to MLB too by the Brewers.
Oh, there you go.
I think one of
1982.
One of my other favorite things too, which, hopefully his dad will be able to kind of guide him within his focus as well, because, leadership can come in different ways, and it's the people who are backing in your corner that are going to create you to be the best leader as well. But when he was talking about all the success that he's had within his football life, right? Undefeated in high school, winning the Heisman at Oklahoma, making the Final Four and whatnot, and the trajectory that the Cardinals were going, he knew that when he came into the league, being the number one pick, that it was going to take some time, but we were going the right way, and to hit that wall and fall back down really in a tremendous fashion, he seems to have the right mindset to understand that the bounce back has to happen, and it has to happen fast, or else there's repercussions that come with that when you're, the headliner. So that was also one of my favorite things from the flight plan, to understand that he reads the room and he seems like he wants to be accountable, which is what you need in leadership at the end of the day.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It seems like he's ready to grow up, I guess is the easiest way to put it, and maybe finally become that leader. There's been those conversations had about, like you're saying, he used to win at every level. He's used to being a winner, and then coming to a, let's be honest, not such a great Cardinals team and struggling through his first handful of seasons at this point. I mean, you almost forget how long he's been in the league, and he didn't react well to losing. He wasn't used to it. But now it seems like hopefully he's settled in, and I can't stress enough. I mean, if you watch that video, it just seems like his head is on straight now. So if this is a new Kyler that's ready to go mentally and physically, I expect big things out of him. But like we were saying, it's make or break here. I mean, last thing while we're talking about Kyler, I want to ask you, Tallman, do you think if, say, Kyler comes back week 5, week 6, and has like a 10 games this season, if he does as good or worse than he has in the past, do you consider moving on from him at the end of the season?
I mean, you have to. You'd be a fool to say he's not playing for his future right now. I mean, am I wrong with that assessment? I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion. But then there's also that piece in there. Oh, he didn't have a full season, or this, or also they're clearly not trying to win. So is it fair to just assess him on this season only when it's going to be a partial season? We already know that. But I think you have to have those conversations. That question's going to be asked in the front office. It's going to be. It has to be. If it's not, then we have the wrong guys in that seat. I mean, this is a business.
Yeah.
And then, you paid the guy so much money, but maybe that was a poor business decision, right? It's still a business, right? You owe it to this fan base. You can't, if he's not the guy, you got to figure out that sooner rather than later. It's NFL is the what have you done for me lately, right? It stands for not for long. So if he's not going to be there, he's not going to be the guy, then you got to move on, whether you owe him a big bag or not. So this is going to be a crucial year for him. And if he comes in, if he's steady and he has, decent production like we've seen from him, he's going to be fine. If he comes in and just absolutely shits the bed, then there's going to be some loud rumblings in that front office, and that first pick is going to be huge.
I hate to say it, but I agree with you. Like, you have to explore all options. You owe it to this fan base. You owe it to the organization. Whether you're Monty Austinfort or Michael Bidwell.
Fuck that guy.
Excuse me. Yeah, I wish I had
He's over here talking shit on podcasts. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I
Fuck
did,
Steve
yeah.
Keim. Sorry.
He was back there. No, you're good. He was back there with his AirPod headphone quality on professional podcasts again.
What the hell?
Gotta love it.
He's got millions of dollars, man. Figure it out.
Truly incredible. He can't afford a $40 snowball mic off Amazon, but besides the fact, not talking about
that burner
Steve
phone.
Keim. Yeah, he's calling in from his burner phone. Jesus. But I agree with Tallman. Kyler has to prove it this year, and maybe they give him the excuse of, partial season, not set up for success. I mean, Mike, would that be justification to let him go through the 24-25 season at that point?
I don't know. I mean, I'm still at the point, man. Like, you coming off a major injury, I would want to make sure that he goes through an entire off season healthy, and then come back and see really where your product is on the field. But I do agree with you guys. Like, he's got to come in, right? He's got to be efficient throwing the football. He's got to cut back down on turnovers. Hopefully start to trim back some of those batted balls down at the line of scrimmage. That's by, moving your eyes and getting out of the pocket a little bit more. Starting to add the wheels back, because we know it's going to take some time before he comes back to form with that. But, if he comes back week 6, by week 17, week 18, I'm hoping that he is in the form before his injury at that point. And if he's not, that might be a little bit scary. But I'm under the impression that I think you got to give him a full off season health wise, because then we're also going to be completely retooled next year. We already know this with all the draft capital and all these young promising guys hopefully next year that we'll be able to bring in. But he's just got to be efficient. He's got to start taking those next steps like we keep saying. And I'm not saying he has to come in and win most improved player of the year, but he's got to keep the Cardinals in some games. You know, he's got to give us opportunities to win. And if he can do that, I don't think you have to look in a different direction when it comes to the number 1 pick if we do have that next year.
Without a doubt. I mean, you can't win it all by yourself as the quarterback. You're a major part in the success of a team, but I like what you said there. He has to keep us in games. We make it to where the defense loses us games and not our offense. And as long as Kyler is running the offense, doing everything that's asked of him, like you're saying, cutting down those batted balls, then I think you do give him another chance. But if he comes back and he's just the same player, not getting the job done, then I think you really do have to take a long, hard look and see what kind of deal might be out there to make. I just, with that price tag, I mean, I'm sure there's a team that would take a chance on him. It's way too soon to say. I mean, there's a whole season left to be played, but I think getting Kyler back out there this season and letting him go would be like letting him loose to go and try and prove himself would be the best option. But Tallman, mentioning the Cardinals' future, and that it is going to be huge with all this draft capital we have. But right now, ESPN came out with a power rankings of NFL teams' future talent, and guess where the Cardinals ranked?
Dead last.
Dead last. You didn't even have to see it. You just knew.
I mean, come on. They're dead last in every list that's created. We're also in list season where all they can do is create list, power rankings, this and that. I'm not surprised by that at all. I mean, look at the roster. On paper, it's the worst I think I've ever seen it. Well, recently. Ever seen it recently. Excuse me.
It's pretty rough.
But I just want to add something. Do you guys hear about Kyler Murray being linked to the Vikings?
Oh, in like a trade scenario?
Yeah, blockbuster trade.
Like recently? Like that could happen this season?
Yeah.
I'm only doing it if we get Justin Jefferson back.
Oh, come on. You know that's not going to happen. Vikings linked to potential blockbuster trade for Kyler Murray, July 14, 2023.
Oh, man.
Ooh, I mean, that's just, again, it's that build up to the season. It's the, what can we drum up to get people excited
get clicks,
for the start of the season?
I mean, what, do we get Kirk Cousins in that situation?
I don't know.
Oh, good Lord. And we're definitely drafting a quarterback in
like
the first
that?
round.
You like that?
I shoot. I
I
mean,
hate that. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I mean, I'm very I'm on the edge about that kid.
I'd rather
I don't
have
know.
Clayton Tune than Kirk Cousins.
I probably would too. I'm in agreement with you.
Well, and then the issue with Kirk Cousins, though, is he has the stigma. He can't win in the playoffs, right? He just cannot win in the playoffs. And what does Tallman do for one of the biggest bets we have last year while in Vegas? He picks the Vikings to beat the Giants, and that was the only one.
It was a close game.
It was the last leg.
It was a close game.
But that should have been the easiest of picks because you don't pick Kirk Cousins in the playoffs.
Yeah, you got to go with history on that one. That's a bad break. That's tough. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not surprised. You're right, Tallman. Like, there's all these lists and opinion pieces coming out and wild trade speculation. I don't think Kyler's going to be moved before they get a chance to really see what they have. Unless we would get a Justin Jefferson, but then you have Justin Jefferson on your roster. Who's going to throw him the ball?
Exactly. Clayton Tune.
Clayton Tune.
I'm going way back to what Mike said. If I had to bet, I would bet that he's not gone after the season. They're going to give him that whole offseason to go through. But just me being the impatient Arizona fan that I am, I would want to see some action now. If he came in and was terrible, I want to see us bring in a huge prospect like Caleb Williams, right? How exciting would that be? That would give us a buzz that we haven't had since we were, 10-2, 2 seasons ago? How exciting was that, right? So recently it's just been so bland. It's just been failure after failure after failure, leadership failures, performance failures, right? The young talent, sorry, we totally derailed your question. I apologize.
It all ties together.
To think of the only young person on our team that I'm excited about is Paris Johnson. I mean,
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. But it's like
all the other they drafted a bunch of hurt players.
You're not hyped for Michael Wilson?
No, you guys know he played 13 games in college.
hey, but they were good. There was a good 13 games.
He went to Stanford. No, the only reason he got drafted, I think, in the third round, was it third round or third round? Second round? I don't know. See, that's how
Third
much
round.
Third
We
round.
took
Yeah,
Ojulari in the second round.
It was the only reason because he had a good game in the in the Senior Bowl or whatever. That's a thing, right? Senior Bowl.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so he had a great game, and then that really shot him up on the draft board. That's the only reason he got drafted.
The one thing that scares me the most.
13 games at Stanford.
That sucks. But what scares me is like we can have all this draft capital. We can go through offseason, and even if we crush it in the draft, make some trades, there's no guarantee that these young players are going to help us win right away. I mean, especially not right away. So are we looking at 2-3 years before the Cardinals have a competitive roster again?
I don't think so, man. I think the NFL game with roster building is so different comparative to other sports. I mean, guys are switching teams left and right every single year. It's really crazy. I think the biggest thing when it comes down to it at the end of the day is the leadership and the coaching staff that you have in and the plan that you have for the players that are on your team. It's not just, this is my plan, figure out a way to do it. You have to be able to look at your roster, look at what guys do best, and tailor your game plan to that. I mean, we can go to this list. The Cardinals are ranked dead last. You know why? Because Steve Keim was fucking around the last 5-6 seasons with the Cardinals, getting DUIs, getting suspended, not doing his damn job correctly, and completely botching the draft for the last half decade to the point where one of our highest draft picks doesn't even get optioned for his freaking 5th year in Isaiah. I was going to say Isaiah Thomas. I always say Isaiah Thomas when it's Isaiah. Anyway, with Isaiah Simmons, because we don't know where to play him. And now it sounds like they finally kind of have some kind of plan to see if he's going to be a future of this team.
I think he's listed as a cornerback.
And I think they're going to give him some opportunity at safety.
Or
I might be
safety,
wrong,
yeah.
but
Dude, he was the worst in coverage. He couldn't cover anybody. What are they doing?
well, it depends if you're one-on-one matchups. We know that he struggled against the tight end, but if you put him in a zone, he is
That was supposed to be a
speedster
specialty.
and a high flyer. So once again, it depends how you tailor the game plan to the assets that you have.
That's why you drafted him with the 8th overall pick, to cover the tight end, because we got burnt the season before.
But yeah,
Bad by the tight end.
I mean, we have the bottom of the list prospects. Where was this rankings? Where did it come from?
ESPN.
Okay. And guys, here's the last thing. I guess I can tie it back into this list as well. I think we might know who was one of the main culprits, if not the main culprit, to the dysfunction with the Cardinals the past couple of years by his freaking media tour just to stay in relevance from Steve Keim.
Yeah, he's out there going on those podcasts.
He was the problem.
He's talking about the Cardinals like, oh, this and that. Dude, you were a part of that problem. You created this problem.
It's the craziest thing. It's like
take some responsibility.
That's what I'm saying.
What are you
we talk
doing?
about Kyler Murray and finally him stepping into a leadership role, recognizing that he has to take accountability for himself. And
shut up.
Steve Keim is just on a tour talking about how we can't figure out how it was dysfunction and all these things were done wrong and whatever. It's like, well, Steve, didn't you have a huge involved part in everything? With that, like
you were the captain of that ship, man.
Wild, man.
Yeah, when they asked him, I know we're giving Steve Keim way too much time right now.
Because it'll be the last damn time we ever talk about Steve Keim.
They asked
get
him
it
that
out all right
question.
now.
They said, "Do you regret not picking Nick Bosa instead of Kyler?" And then he came out and said, "No, not at all, because Kyler Murray saved my job." He literally, do you remember that? And then he refers to him as the little quarterback.
Oh, man, that is just
he's
disrespectful.
He's a different breed, man.
Dude, Keim had so long. He had so many opportunities, and he rode on like 2 or 3 decent signings and a few decent decisions he made here and there. And then the last 3-4 years of his time with the Cardinals, he just completely sputtered out, couldn't assemble a team to save his life, was too busy getting blasted on a Saturday night and getting DUIs on Fry Road or whatever, like
pulling a Michael Floyd.
him and Michael Floyd were out
Just
drinking
hanging out.
Yeah. But enough Keim time. The last NFL Cardinals semi-related topic I wanted to talk about was after all of the ordeal and drama surrounding it, DeAndre Hopkins has finally decided to sign with the winning quarterback team he always wanted, the Tennessee Titans and Ryan Tannehill.
What a clown.
Dude, honestly, what a fucking joke. He goes off about wanting to play for a competitor, play for a good quarterback, yada, 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 and then just ends up taking the money anyway and signing with Tennessee. Like, I get they still have Derrick Henry. Tannehill is serviceable at best.
No, they got the Will Levis kid in the draft.
Oh, even better.
But
Who
I
has
don't
been
believe in him.
struggling
What he
in
went
training
to?
camp.
Did he go to Kentucky? No. Yeah.
I
No.
think that's right.
Sounds
yeah,
right.
Kentucky.
Sounds right.
Okay.
Say it with your chest.
Kentucky.
But yeah, I guess the Patriots had offered him like $15 million for the one season, and what the Titans did is they gave him a 2-year deal worth $26 million with the opportunity to work it up to $32 million in incentives. The goals for receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. If he gets 10 touchdowns in a season, he'll get $1 million bonus. Which, I mean, I guess good for him, get your money. You're never going to win a Super Bowl. Not saying you had a better chance of doing that on the Cardinals, but are the Titans that much better than the Cardinals?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, they're above the ranking. They're above us listed in the rankings for
in many rankings.
promising talent and whatnot. But, hey, you reap what you sow, man. I think it was one of those situations where, yeah, he got his money, but, like you said, man, good luck. Like I feel like somebody like DeAndre Hopkins at this point, like he was kind of saying, would want to go to a winner and have a chance to make a push within the playoffs and possibly go and get himself a ring. And I don't think the Tennessee Titans are anywhere near ready to fight. They could win their division. I know they've been pretty decent over the past couple of seasons, but, you still got to get through the Chiefs. It's odd, man. And I know there's a lot of narrative right now that's going on with the running backs and how, it is basically a dead zone for everybody going back with Saquon Barkley. Teams don't want to invest in running backs anymore, and they don't want to pay them. And I know D-Hop had some comments about that as well. So he's trying to keep high-profile wide receivers getting paid. I get that, but wouldn't you want to help yourself set your legacy a little bit more by going for a true contender and taking a little bit less money? I know you got to set yourself up for your future, but the dude has made a lot of cash, people.
He's perfectly
He
set
has
up.
made a lot of cash. But I don't know the inner workings of DeAndre Hopkins. I guess I wish him luck. It's fine. They're in the AFC, so I don't really give a shit what happens over there. But interesting, to say the least.
I hope he fails miserably. I'm sorry. This is a guy at one point I bought his damn jersey, and that was the
Tallman, you buy everybody's jersey.
that
what
was
are you talking
that
about?
was the worst investment of my football fan career.
It wasn't David Johnson.
No, because I sold that to you.
Damn it.
Oh,
That's right.
bummer.
Actually,
my
I
worst
think
investment.
that one was a gift. That's right.
Oh, I paid you for that jersey.
No. I mean,
gift
it was
to
a
him
gift to me,
initially.
and then so
you
technically,
made money.
I
100%
profited.
That was the
Profited
the
hard
best
on
jersey
that.
investment he ever had.
But when I think of DeAndre Hopkins, I think of somebody that is just deserves zero time in my brain. He's a waste of my breath anytime we discuss him. All he cares about is dollar signs, dollar signs, dollar signs. And that's extremely obvious, right?
Yeah.
He's not a team player. He's me. And he talks this whole game of, I want to build my legacy. Dude, I honestly, if we didn't talk about him ever again, I would be a happy camper. So he can go over. I just looked it up. The Titans were 7-10 last year.
Wow.
What do they expect to do? The only thing you could possibly spin it around is they're in a winnable division.
Well, obviously, D-Hop is just going to make him that much better.
Oh,
Right?
yeah,
It's
right?
going to get him over the
Yeah,
hump.
because Monday through Thursday, he's not going to practice or do anything. He's just the worst. He's a cancer in the locker room. He's not a team guy. He doesn't care about anyone around him.
No.
Yeah, I'm glad he's gone.
And this...
And the way on his exit out, he couldn't help us at all. He couldn't renegotiate his contract, adjust it,
to help us facilitate some
restructure
type
it
of trade or
so that
something.
we could bring down some of the money so we could trade him where he wanted to go.
Yeah.
No, he just, again, dollar signs is all he cares about.
You know what's the beautiful thing all about this though, Tallman, is I know that we're in the dead zone period. We're in a tough time when it comes to not only Valley sports but sports in general, right? But football is less than a month away. And then we
crazy.
get to talk about whatever
Dude.
nonsense is going to come with the current Arizona Cardinals. And we won't have to talk about Steve Keim, and we definitely won't have to talk about DeAndre Hopkins anymore.
Yes, we can talk about other dysfunction.
We can talk about Clayton Tune, starting quarterback.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, Tallman, don't worry. I think this is the last time we're going to talk about DeAndre Hopkins. I think
I'm sure we'll have to monitor how
yeah,
the season goes.
we'll have to do our D-Hop check-in and see how it's going.
And if it's bad, I will definitely be making some comments.
Over under on touchdowns for him this year, Tallman. What do you got? What's the line?
I hope it's under 10.
Ooh, I'll go 6.5.
Ooh.
Is that
You didn't
is
really
that friendly?
So over 6 but less than 7?
Correct.
Okay.
Do you think it's going to be 7 more than?
No, I think that's probably about accurate. He'll probably have 5 or 6 touchdowns. I mean, he's got to really be like open. I feel like anything near the goal line, they're just going to pound it in with Derrick Henry. But I don't know, man. I agree. I think it's completely hilarious. Ever since Hard Knocks, when he was standing there whining to the wide receivers, coach, do you think I'm going to make the Hall of Fame? Coach, do I have a good career? Am I good at football, coach?
Yeah,
It's
you're
like
the best. You're the best.
and then
D-Hop.
just, oh yeah, D-Hop, you so good, man. You're the best
You
wide receiver
awesome.
that ever wide received.
You can
just,
marry my daughter.
That wide receiver.
that wide receive. So yeah, I'm done. I'm done caring about DeAndre Hopkins, and we laugh him right out the door.
The Hall of Fame game is in 11 days.
Holy shit, who's
Wow,
playing in that?
dude. Jets, and I didn't read the rest of it.
Oh, so only the best teams.
Yeah. Because Aaron Rodgers is not going to play it. He's not going to sniff the field on that one. Browns and the Jets.
Nice. Can't wait to see that one. Hey, we're gonna see a Browns game this year.
Yes, we are.
This should be fun. But I want to switch gears here a little bit. We've talked a lot about the Cardinals and DeAndre Hopkins and Steve Keim. So let's shift it up a little bit and talk about the Phoenix Suns, another team that's in their off-season period right now. And it's been a pretty exciting past month with all the moves, all the wheeling and dealing James Jones and Matt Ishbia and Isaiah Thomas are doing. And the most recent, we talked about it a little bit on the Heat Check podcast last month, but there have been some updates since then, some more moves made. The Suns have gotten rid of Cameron Payne, traded to the San Antonio Spurs, along with a second-round pick and some cash. I think we got a second-round pick back in that one, and then a handful of second-round picks from the Orlando Magic. Probably muddying up the details of that a little bit, but that's not the important part. The important part is we also signed Bol Bol, who was a free agent, and a lot of hype around his free agency and signing with the Suns. There's plenty of highlight tapes out there on the internet of Bol Bol looking like a perennial all-star. But we know, if you're tuned in enough, that he is a role player at best on his best day. So I want to temper expectations there. It's very exciting when you got a guy who, what is he, like 7'4", 7'5"?
Yeah, he's 7'4".
The lankiest motherfucker I've ever seen in my life, man.
He's a big, lanky boy, for sure. Of course, son of Manute Bol, who was a NBA great. Rest in peace.
Legend.
What, was he just like, fuck, I don't know what to name him. Just give him the same name as his last name.
I don't know. He's from Sudan. He's Sudanese. I know they... I'm not going to get into that, Tom, and don't bait me with that
I
shit.
know, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, it's like when guys are named like
on his name.
when guys are named like Muhammad. I'm sure it's like probably normal in their culture.
Yeah,
somewhat.
we're
definitely
just
is
so
normal.
American and uncultured.
Yeah, it's like if you were
Yeah.
Tallman.
Yeah. Hey.
You never know.
What about that?
But no, Bol. There's been some varied reactions from around the league. Two former NBA players in particular had very different opinions. Tim Hardaway Sr. said Bol is better than Victor Wembanyama. He's more ready to play at the NBA level and play more physically than Wembanyama. Of course, he is the number 1 draft pick. Okay, so Bol is 7'2". But in a good pair of sneakers, he might be like 7'3".
How are you 7'2", 220? That's scary.
Well, hey, that's Holmgren, that's Wembanyama. They're skinny boys. But back to this Bol thing, and I said there, Tim Hardaway Sr. said Bol is better than Wemby, and then Gilbert Arenas came out and said Bol will not help the Phoenix Suns at any capacity, and will just be, they maybe got him because he's big and can take up a lot of space on the bench and keep it nice and warm. But Mike, I'll pass it over to you first. Like, what was your initial reaction to the Bol signing?
It's funny because I do think it's a good signing at the end of the day, but with all the moves that the Phoenix Suns have made this offseason, including their free agent signings, like this, and this was the most recent one to happen, it might have been honestly at the bottom of the list because there was just so much other craziness going on with the Bradley Beal trade, signing all of these 5-6 year vets who are still young, who should be pretty good contributors for this Phoenix Suns team. But I like it. I mean, is he going to be a part of the playoff rotation when it comes down to it? Time will tell. I think he'll be given an opportunity. I think that backup center position is going to be, between him and Drew Eubanks. So we'll see, who has flashes more within this season and who just fits better with the top three guys. That's what it's going to come down to. But, he's going to have an opportunity to play. There's no doubt about it. And, I wish Cam Payne well. I wish him good tidings. San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama, it's still going to be a work in progress, so I don't know how successful of a season they're going to have. But Cam's going to have an opportunity to play over there, I think with Trey Jones, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds right.
So it was, the biggest thing is not only the changing of the guard, right? You could say it in multiple ways, but this team is just different. They're looking for a different defensive strategy, especially within this guard position. And it sounds like they really want to give a good look to Jordan Goodwin. I mean, the guy played in 1 or 2 summer league games, and they shut him down, basically saying, "Yep, that's it. This is our guy. This is our guy." So, that made Cam Payne expendable. And I think, like Tallman said, it still opens up another roster spot. So the Suns still have some more flexibility to bring in, one more piece to get eyes on and see if they can be a contributor. But like the Bol signing, time will tell, like everything we know. So,
yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that are writing Bol into the starting lineup. These fantasies of DeAndre Ayton playing more of a power forward role, much like he did in college. And that could be more suitable to his game. But for my money, I still need Ayton as the starting center with all the talent we have that could fill in around him there in those other capacities. I expect Bol to be 15 to 25 minutes a night type of guy if he can really be a contributor off the bench. Of course, we do have some other guys. Who was the white guy we got from Toronto that's supposed to get some good minutes?
Eubanks?
Yeah,
he's from Portland.
Drew Eubanks. Oh, Portland. Excuse me. My bad.
I'm white guy.
It kind of narrows it down on the Suns roster, doesn't it? But I like what you said there about Goodwin having a good summer league. Another guy that had a pretty good appearance in summer league was Toumani Camara, our second round pick this season. Do you think? I'll get you involved, Tallman, don't worry, but I got to pick Michael Benjamin's brain here. Do you think Camara could sniff the floor this season?
I mean, he could, man. I think anything is on the table, right? Sorry, folks, I'm not really giving you a definitive answer, but he showed himself and he did what you're supposed to do if you make a summer league team and you are drafted, even if you're a second rounder, right? You're supposed to be one of the better guys on the floor and make an impact. And he did that for the Suns pretty much in every game that he played. And I like his size. I like his defensive strengths. And he showed he could put the ball in the bucket as well. Rebounds at a decent clip. I mean, who knows, guys? Like, this team could be molly-whopping teams left and right. So they're going to be able to go 12, 13 deep in games. And, guys who we really didn't think were going to get minutes at all are going to have opportunities. Like, I think at this point with the amount of signings, and I know we still have Ish Wainwright on the team, but I don't think he's going to play really whatsoever or be a part of the rotation unless it is in killed games. Like, we're just absolutely dominating people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's not Frank Vogel's guy like he was with Monty Williams, where Monty would give him stretches to play more than, honestly, he probably deserved, but you just never know. And I know the Suns are high on him, and I think they also have to be high on him because of the cap space hit. And the real thing about this, guys, is that we have to make those kind of guys work moving forward with the way that we're going to have to structure this team. So if you can find a diamond in the rough in the second round, later second round, give them opportunities to grow and then become a key piece of your team, you got to try at this point.
Yeah, and I agree. You got to find those guys that are, like you said, I think you said they're the diamonds in the rough, because you're right. For the next, I think, 5, 6, 10 years, maybe, we're going to be drafting late first round or second round with all the picks we have stockpiled, having traded all those first rounders as pick swaps and however that ends up looking like. So I agree with you. He's going to be a guy that comes off the bench when we're, blowing people out, or God forbid, if we're being blown out, maybe he gets some minutes there on the other side of it. But Tallman, I'll finally bring you in here, get you a little bit involved. Big conversation point that's been coming out the past couple weeks is that Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton are the only two guys left on the roster from just 2-3 years ago when we made that finals run. And we were just talking here before the show, or the podcast, if you will, about you being supremely optimistic for this team. So are you in the camp of championship or bust?
Yes. Well, yes. I think, was that clear? It was yes. The answer was yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's open that window. Not this year, championship or bust, because if we don't do it this year...
Oh, that's a bit contradictory.
Yeah, you just did a double yes.
Yeah. So that's why I was.
That means it has to be this year.
Okay. Do I think there should be favorites to win this year? Yes, I do. But come on,
failure if they
think
don't
about
win
it. I
the
mean,
title
you have.
this year.
So you have.
That's a better question.
What was it? I missed it.
Is it a failure if they don't win the championship this year? Because I'll preface that. I'll
really
add on to that is these guys aren't getting any younger, especially looking at Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal with his kind of injury history. Of course, Devin Booker is probably still going to be solid for another 5-10 years, but let's be honest, Kevin Durant is getting up there and he's on the back end of his career now. So you can't waste any years with Kevin Durant.
Yeah, he's on the downturn, definitely. Okay, fine. Yes, it's championship or bust.
This season.
Yes.
Okay.
But then the silver lining will be, you have Durant under control for a couple of years. Obviously, you took on that massive Beal contract. You have him tied up for a couple of years. So you're going to have the main three no matter what. But how they filled out the rest of this roster, I think they're going to pull it off. I think we're going to make a huge run. I'm extremely excited for this basketball season, and I think it's going to be great.
Yes. I love it, Tallman.
I'll say, I'm optimistic. In a sense, I do think it's championship or bust. When you make these moves, gut the roster, and built it back up the way you have, I hope that our core 3-4 players can stay healthy long enough to be cohesive, and then on top of it all, still be healthy come playoff time. I'm going to sound like a broken record saying that same type of thing throughout the rest of the offseason and even the beginning of the season. In any sport, player health is huge, and the teams that are the most complete at the end of the season are going to have the best fighting chance to win a championship. So I think that's why I don't want to speak for Mike, but I think that's probably why him and I are a bit, maybe not pessimistic, but a bit cautious in our expectations for this team and moving forward. And Mike, I want to give you a chance to speak on that a little bit, but also I'm looking at our roster here. I do mention older guys like Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Eric Gordon on that list who have played 10 plus seasons in this league. But the rest of the roster has 5, 6, 7, 3 years of experience. Devin Booker being the next closest at 8 years of service in the NBA. So overall, a fairly young roster, aside from the 3 guys there that are a bit older. Does that give you a little bit more hope?
I have a lot more hope, because some of these guys that we brought in are, vested within the NBA game. Now, not all of them have gotten exponential amount of experience on the floor, but you get to see what the ins and outs are of being an everyday NBA player, right? I mean, most of these guys did get decent time, but maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, right? They're really kind of backup guys who are going to be given opportunities. Man, Chris, when you say that too, it's crazy to think Devin Booker 8 years already. Seems like just yesterday.
Where does the time go?
It's wild, and he is just entering his prime. It truly is. It's something to just be so excited about if you're a Phoenix Suns fan. But yeah, I mean, going back to the question, a big thing that comes with what the Phoenix Suns were able to do specifically within free agent signings is, I know a lot of these guys got the 2-year minimum type deals, but most of them were with player options, right? So a lot of these guys are flyers. A lot of these guys are the one and dones. They're trying to come in here, prove their worth for another NBA franchise, hopefully get us a title, but by next year, they're going to be gone. And you're going to have to do this whole song and dance again, trying to fill out the bench with league minimum guys. And that's always kind of a cause for concern. I know you have to think of, well, we have to factor in injuries, and it's not just the unknown, right? The injuries are unknown to a certain extent, but then there's also the tape and just the backing that we have with our main 3 guys going down every single year. Like,
yep.
Next, we'll have some homework for next podcast. We're going to take a look at the amount of games missed per season for the past, say, 5-6 seasons for those guys. And it's going to be more than we really imagine, right? So that's where my cautious optimism comes from, I guess you can say. And going back to what you were talking about, Chris, I have very high hopes for this team. I really think this team is really going to be successful. But at this point, man, it's deep run in the playoffs. It's going to the NBA Finals, making it to the finals, or it's just not worth it. It's not worth our time or investment anymore. I'm not going to stop being a fan, right? Pump the brakes. I'm always going to be a fan.
Pump the brakes.
But this is where this team is being constructed to go right now, right? So those are the expectations you really have to have, but you still have to put caution to the wind.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to temper your expectations a little bit and look at it like it's reality, right? You have to be objective with it, and player health is a huge concern. I will continue to say that. I had that tweet we talked about last month where Davey called me a doomer when I pointed out the injury struggles of our main 3 guys. Not so much Booker. He's managed to play at least 70 games almost every season, but Beal... Not last season. Okay.
He played 53.
Only 53? Well, there you go.
Well, and I thought the season before he missed a decent amount of time too, right?
Beal only played 50 games last season.
Well, yeah, since 2018-19, Beal hasn't played more than 60 games in a season, and Durant hasn't played more than 55 games in a season. So what is that? 4 seasons worth of them only playing 2/3 of the season at best? It's cause for concern. Like, this isn't NBA 2K build a roster, turn off injuries. On paper, our team is amazing. But when you turn on injuries and you're playing these games, 82 games is a lot, especially when you're in your late 30s and you've been playing for 16, 17 seasons. And you're Brad Beal and you've played 11 seasons, but you've also had some serious injuries and some concerns. And there's questions that can be asked of how eager was Brad Beal to come back and play for a Wizards team that was scraping the bottom of the barrel and not trying to be competitive. So you would hope that with the prospect of being a playoff contender and honestly a championship contender, that these guys, if they do get an injury, are going to take their rehab seriously and do whatever they can to be available on the court. I mean, you would hope any professional, no matter whether you're a bad team or a good team, you're making millions of dollars. You owe it to your fans to give the best performance you possibly can. But unfortunately, there are those guys out there like the DeAndre Hopkins where they can talk about legacy all they want. But at the end of the day, how much of it is just wanting to get that big contract, secure your family for generations to come? And it's easy for us to be critical of that, and I try not to fall into that trap of, oh, these guys only care about money. Like, why are they complaining about making $25 million instead of $30 million? Like, that's still life-changing money for any of us. But you got to look at it again objectively in the big picture of how much money these teams are bringing in, the revenue that is out there, and how much of it do the players deserve, since they are the product at the end of the day. They are the ones more or less generating that income for these franchises. So don't want to go diving into that too much, but overall, I think I'm optimistic, but I am also cautious in my approach. I'll double down on that. And these moves have been good, but it's it's definitely something that we just need to see the game start to be played before we can truly dive into it and have a good idea of what we're dealing with here. And again, another guy I think who needs to step up this season is someone we've talked about, DeAndre Ayton. He was recently doing an interview with a TV station in the Bahamas, and he made some comments. I should have pulled up the exact quote, but basically it was that he hears the whole world hating on him. He can feel the hate. He sees the headlines and the tweets and all that, and he's ready to change the narrative starting this summer. So, Mike, what is DeAndre Ayton going to possibly do to change the narrative?
Well, first and foremost, you got to look, what is the narrative? I need specifics, DeAndre.
That he sucks.
Well,
That you hate him? Okay, but let's talk about why we hate him, right? That's what I want to know, right? What narrative are you going to change? Are you going to change the way that you prepare? Are you going to change the way that you show yourself and your hustle on the floor? Like, that's where Suns fans specifically have had struggles with DeAndre Ayton, wondering where the number one pick that we thought coming from the University of Arizona, who was an absolute dominant force, has gone. And a guy who really was a key contributor to our 2021 finals run.
yeah.
That guy has been long gone for the past 2 seasons. And I know there's plenty of things that we can say. Was it because of Monty Williams, his fractured relationship with that? How well did he really mesh with Chris Paul and guys who were trying to hold him accountable to be a key piece for this team and the success of it? That's what I'm saying. What narrative are we trying to change, DeAndre? Is it just you don't want people to hate you? Okay, well, yeah, like I get that, but you need to. I need to know what it is that you're trying to do. What is going to change it? What specifically are you looking to change the narrative of people hating you? And I know it's the off season. Guys aren't going to dive and go crazy into their personal life, but I guess the only way to really show it is on the floor if the improvements are there, and I can't have offensive rebounds and you standing in the bottom corner. Like, those kind of things, if we don't see any of that, okay, then the narrative can start to change from that.
Yeah.
But, it's easier said than done. And if you don't have the mental fortitude to fight through that and do the little dirty work that you're going to need, because DeAndre Ayton, you are the 4th option on this team now. I know you were number 1 overall pick, but you are the 4th option. I know Frank Vogel was talking about feeding him a little bit, making sure that you give the carrot to the guy if he gets a good deed, and I get that, but also you have to make sure that the guys who are really going to lead you to success, who we know are the best basketball players on this team, those top 3 guys, it's going to be a heavy workload for them night in, night out. So you're going to need DeAndre Ayton to hustle on the defensive end. You're going to need him to just be a killer on the boards. And it's just something that we haven't seen enough of on a consistent basis over the past 2 years. And it's why the Suns have faltered with the expectations that they've had.
And I think Frank Vogel is smart enough to understand that getting DeAndre Ayton involved cannot come at the expense of winning games and giving opportunities to our star players who we know are reliable. I would have really liked to see DeAndre Ayton expand on that, like you're saying, be accountable, show a little humility and recognize some of his shortcomings that he's had since he entered the league, or at least the past 2 seasons. Like you said, that clip of him just standing under the backboard while Jokic tries to get it was Jokic, right? Like 2-3 rebounds, and DeAndre Ayton's just standing there, and then you realize it clicks, like, oh shit, I got to be doing something, and it was too late. The basket was made, and I just think it's things like that where I would have liked to seen him, take accountability and say, yeah, I know. I haven't always been consistent. I haven't always been as aggressive as I could be. And that's how I'm going to change the narrative. But just saying like, oh, I'm going to change the narrative without expanding on how or what is just kind of leaves it like a gray area. Like, in his mind, does he still feel like all that criticism wasn't warranted and that he is doing the best he possibly can be? And like you said, maybe scapegoating Monty Williams a little bit. Was it the fractured relationship? Was it his usage? Was he not giving it his all? I mean, like I was just saying, like, there's no excuse when you're a player in the NBA, especially on a contract like he is. There's no excuse for not giving your best night in and night out. And I mean, Tallman, do you think DeAndre Ayton's going to be able to change the narrative and step up this season?
We have to hope, right? He's not even supposed to be on this team, guys. Remember when the Bradley Beal trade came and we basically stole him from the Wizards? We're like, okay, great, we got Beal, but now we have to get rid of Ayton so that we can fill out the rest of the roster. There's no way we can have these 4 players making over $35 million. Actually, I think DA only makes $32 million, but
Only.
yeah, right. We have these max players. We have 4 max players eating up all the money. Like, he's got to go. He's got to go. So now we're at a point where he's gonna be on this team, and honestly, ain't that something? I'm pretty excited about that. That's pretty cool because he's got the potential. We saw the playoff run DA, that version. If we can get him back to that, but that's all up to him, man. That's the ethic, because really it's like you guys have been saying, it's his motor, it's his physicality. It's not there. When you match him up against a Jokic, an Embiid, Jonas Valanciunas, right? Did I say that right?
You did.
Or then the guy in the Bulls,
Vucevic?
Vucevic,
Nikola
right?
Vucevic.
Yeah. So when you I'm not saying Vucevic is a star center, but he's a physical center. When you get him in front of, he's a defensive liability with Jokic and Embiid. He can't guard those guys. But when you get him with the physical center, he disappears, right? And then when he's on the offense, he's going to be a totally different player this year because he doesn't have that Chris Paul safety blanket, right? Safety blanket? That's not what
Safety net.
Safety net, sure.
A blanket works.
Where someone's feeding him offense, he's got to create his own. But he's a one-trick pony. He doesn't attack the rim, and then what he does the hook shot. That's it, right?
Well, if he doesn't have a wide open lane to dunk it, he
does
is
a hook
often going to try and do a little rinky dink shot.
Yeah, a little hook shot.
Yeah, all of his moves are like 2 dribble and then pull up, fade, hook shot. Like, that's one of the other things that has been so alarming over the past 2 seasons, whereas like his physicality throughout that finals run was just off the charts. I mean, on both the offensive and defensive end, it looked like his game was expanding, but he's taken a step back. And I know he wasn't getting the same amount of touches, but I thought you're supposed to grow your game. Like, the longer that you're in the league and the longer that you're playing against the best competition, like, you're supposed to be adding things to your bag. It's not supposed to be decreasing. But yeah,
there's those couple times where like you'll see him go up, attack the rim, and just absolutely slam it in the hoop, and you're like, yeah, where is that energy, that physicality? Where you're like, oh, he's finally figured it out. Never does it again. The rest of the game, you're like, dude, you just literally came in and you fucking posterized a dude. And you like, do that again. You're 7 foot. Like, you can do that every time. Well, not every time. Most of the time, right? Or at least try to do it.
Well,
get up there and just body a guy.
For sure, more often than he does. And like, that's what I'm saying.
It seems like he never tries, though.
Right. And
he's always
that's
like,
the
I'm going to hook
consistency.
shot or I'm going to pass it back out.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd much rather he pass away from a shot he's not confident in than do something that he doesn't think is going to be successful. But I'm with you there. Like,
absolutely.
He needs to understand his size. And when it comes to the center position, there aren't a ton of tremendous talents in the NBA right now at that position. I mean, just off the top of my head, I can think of Embiid, Jokic, maybe Bam Adebayo. And then those other guys you're mentioning, like Vucevic,
small center.
Those guys, like they're serviceable, but are they really like star centers in this league? It's like,
oh, Giannis
isn't a center. He is kind of the size. He could play center, but they mostly roll him out as power forward.
Yeah, I would look at him as power forward.
You would?
more.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But those are that again though. That's a great point though. Giannis is a guy that he would likely be guarding. I mean, Mike, would Kevin Durant guard Giannis if we were matching up with him?
God.
I mean, I think he could possibly, but Giannis is a different animal. They call him the freaking freak for a reason, dude. He's just so physical. So you would want DeAndre Ayton to match up with it. But we also saw what happened in the finals against Giannis.
Yeah.
So
There's no answer for him.
I don't know, but the whole point is, and I love what Tallman talked about, where a narrative could be he's not physical enough to match up against the best of the best in this league, specifically with Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. Like, that's a narrative that you could speak to and say, I want to change that as well. I want to be listed as one of the best big men in the game. And a lot of that comes down to what you see on tape and on film. And I don't know, guys. I mean, some of it could just literally be subconscious when it comes to DeAndre Ayton. Like, it's not that he doesn't want to hustle, but maybe his brain just switches off when the rebound's going up. I am glad that he's getting another opportunity with this team because, you know, he's a homegrown guy. He went to high school here, college here, should be somebody who can really catapult this team at the end of the day. But he's just got to be willing to take the constructive criticism, look himself in the face and say, okay, what do I have to do to change these aspects? And then that will start to change the narrative. So I guess a good thing, the way that we talked about Kyler Murray, is recognizing it and speaking to it, which is a good start. But you got to start pushing it forward and start really pulling out your pen and paper, taking your notes, your action items or whatnot. Tallman likes that one. And move forward and see what you have to do to change the true narrative that you want.
And isn't that crazy how many parallels we can draw between Kyler Murray and DeAndre Ayton? I was literally just thinking about that. Like, both were first picks in their drafts. Both of them came into the league with high expectations, and both of them, quite frankly, haven't lived up to those expectations. And now we see Kyler Murray taking the turn, like I said, talking the talk. He's being accountable for his situation. Is this DeAndre Ayton being accountable for his situation, or saying that I'm fine, I'm just gonna have to keep doing me and prove the fans wrong? And that's what it seems like at face value. I mean, he didn't do this in an interview stateside. I don't know exactly if the purpose of that interview was for him to talk about his playing time or just to talk about him in general, but it's clearly on his mind. He's hearing the criticisms and he knows what the narrative is out there about him. And so I just hope, similar to Kyler, that he takes the right angle on it, and instead of blaming everyone around him, coaching staff, fans, whatever it is, he looks inward and recognizes what he has to do to be better and take it to that next level. And I think he has it in him. I think the coaching change will probably have an impact on it, but if he's not seeing the touches early in the season, is he going to go back to his old ways and kind of become a shell of himself again?
Honestly, man, I think he expected not to be on this team. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, the reason why he's seeing all that hate and all that stuff is because he thought he was out of here, and that's the way we all sat around and talked about for the last month, 2 months, that he's got to go, right? So I don't know. I think it's a weird change for him.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Like, he could have been mentally preparing himself to be on a new team, have a new opportunity to rebrand himself, and now he has to try and do that on the same team with a ton of talent ahead of him. So I think that just all ties into him needing to get his head right and focus on what DeAndre Ayton can do to be successful within his role. And we'll have to see. And there will be plenty of opportunities for us now to see DeAndre Ayton and this whole Phoenix Suns team, as just earlier this week, the Phoenix Suns were finally able to settle their dispute with Bally Sports Arizona and get into their own TV deal. This article here is from ArizonaSports.com. The Phoenix Suns and Phoenix Mercury announced that they have agreed to a new television contract with Gray Television on Friday by resolving a contract dispute with their former partners at Bally Sports Arizona, who agreed not to match the deal. Arizona Family, that's Channel 3 for anyone local, and the new Arizona's Family Sports Network, Channel 44, will carry all non-national exclusive Suns and Mercury games on their airwaves for free in the Phoenix area, according to a press release. The team will announce the details of streaming options in the coming months. So I expect that's probably going to be similar to what Bally's had set up. It was like $20 a month to stream all the Suns games, which I don't love it, but I'll pay it. I'm just going to say that. I mean, I think this is great. I remember we've talked about growing up as kids being able to see the local sports teams for free on those networks. So this kind of brings it back to that time. where it'll be more accessible to us as fans. There's a lot of gripes we've had about Bally Sports and how they did their broadcast. Not so much the actual broadcast itself, but just how inaccessible it was for fans of the team to be able to see that. I mean, if you didn't have Cox Cable or DirecTV, you weren't seeing that games. And as we know, being Valley Sports fans, you can even go out to the sports bar on a Suns game, and there's no guarantee that it's going to be on the TV, even as they're being a successful team. So, I mean, Tallman, I'll ask you this: is this a win for the franchise?
It's a huge win. I mean, the more that you can get your product to your local fans, it's an absolute win. And for those people where, I mean, shoot, if there was a Suns game or even now a Dbacks game that I want to watch, I have to go out somewhere to watch it. And like you said, I have to walk in and go, oh my God, there's Chive TV. Oh, there's pickleball. Oh, there's a replay of the golf tournament. Hey guys, can you put on the Dbacks game or the Suns game? And it's an ultimate win. So by you saying channel 3, that means all you need is a TV antenna. That's on free TV, right?
Yeah, that's free.
Yeah. Okay, great. Sweet. I guess I get to save some money.
Yeah, and I don't know as much about this channel 44. I think it sounds like it's free. Mike, are you familiar with that?
Not so much. Has it already been created? Like, is it up and running right now?
Channel 44.
Yeah, it's from what I could tell, it sounds like it's up and running. But I've also heard, I think it was Tim Ring or one of the guys filling in this week when I was listening to Arizona Sports, he was saying that there's no guarantee that obviously like the nationally, like the ESPN, the TNT games, it sounds like those won't be broadcast for free on these networks, but it sounded like from what he was saying is like with this Arizona Sports TV or whatever it is, that some of those might not be free also. So his worry was, is it going to be 30 games we get for free? Is it going to be 50 games? Like, we really don't know. I think there's a lot more information we need about this deal.
Ooh, that's very interesting. So I guess we need to wait for all the details to drop. But at the end of the day, big dubs. Mr. Matt Ishbia at it again, man. Just incredible. If it can be some kind of service where it's a little bit easier to actually stream off of your phone as well, I think that's big, depending on the price tag and whatnot. But yeah, pull out the bunny ears and watch you a couple of Suns games for free, man. I would take that in a heartbeat, and it's going to open up the door for, Valley fans who just didn't have the opportunity to watch them before, or just didn't have the cash flow to pay for another streaming service, because we know we all have a whole bunch of them nowadays. So very, very excited that the Phoenix Suns are coming to the masses for the Valley, man. That's the biggest thing. You got to put your home team product in front of as many eyes in the state you live in as possible, because then we can continue to cultivate the culture and hopefully make lifelong fans of some of these kids, like what you were talking about, where we remember UPN 45 and Al McCoy calling the games. There's a reason that we have such a deep-rooted love for this team. And some of these young fans are going to be able to start growing that. And that's exciting at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think it just goes to further show Matt Ishbia's commitment to this team and this community and making a lot of smart decisions. I like him as an owner so far. He's shown that he's not unwilling to open up his pocketbook and spend the money. And you can talk about the revenue from having these TV deals with places like Bally's, but I think Ishbia is smart, and I think he's kind of said it, not verbatim, but in interviews, basically that by making this more accessible to the fans, you're enabling your fan base to be more involved, and you'll make the money back either through ticket sales, merchandise sales, and advertising dollars, because there's without a doubt there's going to be advertising slots on these TV, even on this TV deal for free. So if the numbers come out where there's millions of eyeballs on that game, then that's only going to hike up that ad revenue more and what they'll be able to bring in. So overall, I think it's just an incredibly smart decision, and I'm really excited for it. But tying that into another local team and similar situation, honestly, a lot of parallels today in this podcast. But the Arizona Diamondbacks are also free of Valley Sports Plug. Oh, Jesus Christ. They're not free of the Valley Sports Plug
They're stuck with us.
Do not get it twisted. I'm sorry. Bally Sports Arizona will cease to carry Arizona Diamondbacks games on television after its owner Diamond Sports could not agree with the team on favorable terms of a new deal. This came down just this last Tuesday when a judge ruled in favor of Diamond Sports' request to cease operations as the Dbacks TV partners, moving the team's broadcast to MLB control immediately. And so this, I think, has some bigger implications, from my understanding, for the Diamondbacks than it does the Suns, because baseball teams highly, highly rely on the revenue they get from TV deals to be able to do everything. I mean, there's no salary cap when it comes to baseball. So when you're competing with the likes of the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers, who seem to have unlimited payroll, versus the Diamondbacks, where they're at the mercy of what they can generate versus what they can spend on players. And I'm sure that Ken Kendrick could spend a little more on the roster than he has, but I think it's cool on one hand because it is more accessible for us to watch, but what is their next TV deal going to look like? Are they going to get on the same page as the Suns and kind of work into this new Arizona sports media group, or are they going to have to go out and find another broadcast partner to carry these games? I mean, I'm sure there is another company out there who would do it, but are we going to be back in the same situation next season where the games are hard to watch and you have to have a cable subscription to do it? Is this a concern for you, Tallman?
Well, it's a little different from the Suns because the D-backs, they're not going to be on basic TV. If Cox, DirecTV, whatever, if you have that cable or satellite hookup, you're good. You're watching it like normal. But you still need, what is it? I think it was, right now is like $55 for the rest of the season through MLB Network. Or there's a couple other streaming services that are showing them as well. So you still got to pay to see it. Thankfully, they're nice enough for the first week up until today, Sunday. They gave us those games for free on MLB, on the app on MLB Network. It's not on YouTube TV, which I'm pretty upset. So I'm still in the same boat as I was before because I didn't pay for Bally Sports. I don't know about you guys. I wasn't about to do that.
Well, quickly to jump in, like that's what was so shitty about it is even if you had the streaming thing that Bally's had set up, you couldn't even watch Diamondbacks games or Suns games because they had it where you only could watch it through the cable subscription and not through the streaming subscription.
They black it out, right?
Yeah.
So it's a win because no more blackouts. It's totally gone. But still, I mean, a blackout hasn't stopped me before.
Heyo.
So I won't go into how I've been watching the Diamondbacks games. Excuse me. But no, great, because I think they've been boasting hard on those on the TV on the telecast. The announcers, was it Steve Berthium and Brenly Gonzo?
Candiotti.
Yeah. They've been saying, now we're reaching, I think they said 5.5 million total viewers.
Yeah, I actually have it here. I was looking at this article. It said their reach was 930,000 homes, and it's gone up to approximately 5.6 million in the broadcast footprint, which is a 506% increase in reach.
Incredible. So that's a big-time win.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, just those numbers alone, 500% increase in potential viewership, is that going to motivate this team to continue to be aggressive? And I mean, this might tie into some topics we got coming up here, but the Diamondbacks have some decisions to make with this team.
And they do. And we're going to dive into it here shortly, but I think it should be a motivator. When you have more eyes on your product, you want to be putting your best foot forward and continue to be successful so people come back to your product, right? That's the biggest thing at the end of the day. I think there's still some kinks to work out because what is it? Even if you have the MLB package through their network, it was still like you had to buy an add-on to watch the Diamondbacks. And so obviously mid-season transactions like this, things changing hands, it's going to be a while for everything to really get fleshed out. And like you said, Chris, we need that revenue for the team in order to get players. So I don't see it coming down to the same factor like the Suns, where we're going to be able to watch it on, Fox 10 or something like that. That's probably not coming down the pipeline. But if it's easier to find a subscription and say, can I just pay this one price every month and I can watch every single game? That's all the consumer has ever wanted. And, I will give Bally Sports some slack because it seems like most of the problems were coming from the ineptability of Diamond Sports, right? Like those were the culprits. And like people were saying, we didn't hate the broadcast. I mean, they've transitioned all those guys who are in the booth over to MLB.
Well, for now. We
For
don't
now.
know
I think
their
this coming
future.
week we're
Yeah.
going to hear more about who they keep on and whatnot. But
I mean, they better keep. I mean, you can't. What are you going to kick Gonzo to the curb, man? I mean,
They should definitely keep the same guys to finish out the season,
they
right?
built-
And then
yeah.
you can talk
They
about
built
it
a
next year if you
relationship
want
with the
to.
city.
Exactly.
yeah.
I mean, there's a reason Tom Leander has been through all the different changes, but he's been with the Suns for, it seems like 25 years now. You build a repertoire with the people who are talking about your team, and you want to do that. But I could see, like you guys are saying, like if you're setting a new course and changing things up, you can start a new relationship, but I don't think you want to start it mid-season. But yeah, more eyeballs on your product. You got to continue to put your best foot forward. That's what it comes down to, man.
Well, and taking that point of putting our best foot forward, that's not something that the Diamondbacks, the Diamondbacks have not done since the All-Star break. I mean, 2 of 7 since the break and 6 of 14 in their last 20. I mentioned that the trade deadline is coming up, and for the last 2 months, there's been a lot of talk of this team needing to add pitching depth both in the bullpen and in the starting rotation. And believe me, we are going to beat that horse until it's long past dead. I still think that's the case. This team is struggling a little bit, but we know what our bats are capable of. So if they have good pitching to back them up, I don't think we're looking at losing 6 of the last 20 or only winning 6 of the last 20. My conspiracy theory is, though, that I could see the team and Mike Hazen using this as an excuse to say, we're not ready to win it this season and we don't want to go all in and give up prospects just to maybe make the wild card. I mean, Tallman, it sounds like you were buying into that conspiracy potentially a bit too. Do you think that we're still buyers at this point?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be buyers how we stand right now. I mean, I think how many days are we away from? We're 10 days. No, we're like 8 days away from the
less than
deadline.
10, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at it, this team has had way too much success. I mean, right? I mean, it surprised everybody. It put a jolt into this fan base where, I mean, look at some of the attendance numbers we're getting. And it's not because of the free stuff they're giving away, even though you might think that's probably what it is. But no, I mean, there's people, everyone's excited again about this baseball team. And that you don't want to believe that the front office is sitting there going, hey, well, we didn't think we'd be in the playoff picture at all. So we make a wild card. That's a win for us. We'll move on. Like, you don't want them to think that. Like, we've had too much success that they can't sit here and try to improve this team. You know what your weak spots are. Try to fix it. Even if because, I mean, we were chit-chatting before we started this about some of the name or targets that we're seeing at the deadline for the Dbacks who are linked to the Dbacks, which I'm sure we'll probably pick up here soon. But none of them, we're not going out trying to, push all our chips into the center of the table for Shohei. That's not going to happen. We know that. They're not going to give up Drew Jones, even though I think we all agreed. Yeah, I'd give up Drew Jones for someone good to make us win right now.
I don't know if Mike agrees.
I agreed. I said, dude, get him out of here, man. He swings a bat 5 times and he fucking dislocates his shoulder. But we're not going to see them give up a Drew Jones or a Jordan Lawler, the shortstop, and even a Brandon Pfaadt too, even though, I mean, he's fought like hell to try to stay in the majors without getting sent back. But I think we know for a fact they're not going to get rid of any of those top 10, top 20 guys. So then it's just extremely challenging to prove your team when you're not trying to give up those guys. So the conspiracy you're talking about, yeah, I mean, I mean, how do you sit here and say, oh, we didn't think we'd contend at all or even lead the division for a handful of days, right? Like that, as they did. So they're going to take this wild card berth which, I mean, I don't want to jinx us right now, but they're going to take that as a win, a feather in their cap. They're going to move on to next season. And yeah, so are they going to be aggressive? I hope they are. I bet you they won't be as aggressive that we hope they will be.
I think that's a perfect assessment. I think they will probably make some moves, but are they moves that are going to put us into, taking this team over the top and competing with the Dodgers for the division title? And also, are we going to be able to hold on to a wild card spot? It's a very aggressive NL this year. It's a very aggressive league. I mean, everyone is kind of hovering around a similar mark, and it's going to be a fight. There's still quite a bit of season left, and I mean, just looking at guys that we do have already on this roster when it comes to pitching, is Brandon Pfaadt got another chance, and it's just clear, man, he is not the answer. It seemed like there was a glimpse of hope. He made it through 5 or 6 innings without giving up a run and had 6 strikeouts. And just as Michael Benjamin was texting me, telling me that Pfaadt was actually having a good start, he gives up back-to-back-to-back home runs in the 6th inning. Or the 7th inning, I think it was.
3?
Yeah, it was 3. Oh, he gave up a homer to...
I thought it was only 2.
To Friedel, McLean, and Fraley.
I guess I must have checked out at that point. Yeah. After 2, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, so that's rough. He's 0-4 in his professional career with an 8.81 ERA, so just absolutely disgusting. We've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't want to see any more Brandon Pfaadt. He can go tear it up in AAA, but it's clear that he is just not ready for the majors. Like this Cincinnati Reds team isn't bad. They're pretty much tracking with the same amount of success as the Diamondbacks have had this season, but they're not world beaters by any means. And to not be able to finish a game that you start so well has got to be frustrating. I'm sure he's more frustrated than any of us are. But it just goes over to the broader point of we need some help. And is that going to be Lucas Giolito? Is it going to be Lance Lynn? Is it going to be Marcus Stroman? Honestly, Mike, at this point, I'm afraid it's not going to be any of those guys.
Dude, I think the biggest thing that is always eye-opening to me as well in the overall grand scheme of things when it comes down to making moves for teams is we knew what the issue was in May. In early June, we didn't have a solidified starting unit. So why aren't we trying to bring in somebody earlier rather than right at the very end? We knew that we could use another arm or two in the bullpen because we just are still continuing to see these 7th and 8th inning just barrages once our guys come in. And these are issues that have been going on. And I know we have our conspiracies about, well, we didn't really think we were going to be as good as we were this year. We're not going to, put all of our eggs in this basket. But you never really know. You have to strike when the iron is hot. Like, we didn't know that the San Diego Padres were going to be as just ridiculously under par as they are right now. I mean, I'm pretty sure all of us, if not 2 of the 3 of us, picked them to be World Series champs. I did. The Dodgers are in first place, yes, but you could almost say that they are having a little bit of a down year as well, and they have a lot of pitchers on the IL right now as well. The Giants are surprised, but there's a reason that the Diamondbacks were in first place for a solid month. Why aren't we trying to shore up that stuff on the back end instead of come out a week after the All-Star break and now find ourselves already 4 games out of the lead? And we got 2 teams on the heels of us for that wild card spot as well. So if we're continuing on the trend right now, guys, and we don't start fixing some of these problems, we're not going to make the playoffs. And at this point, I know we talked about expectations early before the season. We want to win more games than we lose, right? That's a successful season. You have to change the expectations as things go along. So with the success and the early success that this team had, to not make the playoffs would be a travesty, man, at the end of the day. And I know there's still a whole bunch of baseball left. We don't know if there is going to be moves or not. And everybody goes through a slump. I get that. But this has been a severe slump too extended right now, and it puts the Diamondbacks behind the 8 ball. So these problems could have been shored up earlier, or at least tried to. And it seems like we continue to put the same Band-Aid over the problem, hoping that it's going to change, aka Brandon Pfaadt.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. I mean, I hope they at least bring in somebody in the bullpen. If they really should bring in another starting pitcher as well. But if they go into the deadline and make no moves for somebody who is going to be some kind of a contributor for this team, not just prospects for the future or whatnot, it'll be a disservice, man.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It seems that it's become clear at this point that getting that help out of the bullpen is our number one priority. At minimum, give our starters who are actually having good starts a chance to win and finish games out. And we did have, I don't know if you want to call it luck or just sheer will of the bats being able to carry this team and get us over the hump to win all those games early on in the season. But as the bats have kind of started to cool down, the pitching has been nowhere to try and catch up and get better. And even our starting rotation's getting so bad to the point where we're having basically bullpen games where guys are pitching 2-3 innings. So it's a complete mess. And to maybe play devil's advocate, to be a little fair to Mike Hazen and the organization, you got to weigh the bigger picture. And when you have such a young core, guys like Corbin Carroll, Jordan Lawler, all these guys in our system, yeah, it would be great to make a playoff appearance, maybe win that wild card series, get into the ALDS. But then how realistic is it that we're going to be able to make a World Series run this year? Or is it more likely that we're going to be able to do that 2-3 years down the road with this massive, incredible farm system, like consistently ranked one of the best farm systems, whereas these guys come up and even still, whether they don't make it, whether we end up trading them for pieces once we are ready to be competitive. I think what I'm getting at in saying, playing devil's advocate is you trade for a guy like Giolito or one of these other guys. There's no guarantee that they're going to sign with us next season. They are more often than not expiring contracts. So do you give up a prospect like Drew Jones or any other number one of these guys just for this season to get bounced out in the ALDS best case scenario?
No, you can't. It's a hard sell, and it's a tough game that they're going to have to play because, like you said, do you give away some of your top best young players in your farm system for a rental player? No, I mean, you can't. And it's a hard sell for a lot of people in that front office, I'm sure. It doesn't feel like they think it's the year.
It certainly doesn't.
It really doesn't feel like that. As a fan, yeah, I want to see us be, go for it. Try to figure it out. But to sit here and talk about them to actually be contenders to win the World Series, no, I don't think that it's going to be this year. Well, and as hard as it is for me to say that, but just, I don't know. But then if you look at the NL, like, it's winnable, man. We could beat the Braves.
They've been slumping. They haven't been so hot.
Granted, we could beat the Dodgers, but it felt like we haven't played the Dodgers in 2 months because I don't think we have. But who else? Brewers are in front. We could beat the Brewers. The Reds are in front of us now because they just kicked our ass over the weekend. But hey, we were competitive. That's a team that we can beat in a best of 7. I would bet my money on it. But I don't know, man. It's one of those things. I mean, it's like you want to be impatient. You want it all right now, but really, in all honesty, maybe it's not this year. Maybe we need to be patient. Maybe we just need to wait it out a little bit. But
I agree with you. No, I agree with you. No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say. But then we sit here like, yeah, we don't have one of the best farm systems anymore because a lot of those guys have graduated and they're playing on the team now. We still have decent prospects, right? We have pieces that we could clean out our system right now to the Angels and get Ohtani for half a season, and then the Angels would be like, sweet, thanks for Drew Jones, thanks for Jordan. Granted, that's a really high asking price. We wouldn't give away those two guys, but
one of them, but not both.
Yeah, but you could do Lawler. You could give away one of your outfielders that we have playing for us right now. Give away your boy Pfaadt, and
oh please,
yeah. But
don't entice me.
I mean, we could sit here and hey, dreaming's free, man. Right? Don't get it twisted. We can sit here and dream all day long, but it doesn't feel like this owner, this front office is going to do something as drastic as that, as go for a star player like that for half a season. And maybe we don't want him to do that. That's a big sell.
Yeah, I mean, at Valley Sports Plug, we tend to speak as, pretty much from a fan perspective. We try and have the nuance and have these conversations about being realistic in the bigger picture. But you're right, Tallman. Like, we, as fans, we want to see our teams put the best product possible on the field, on the court, any day that they're playing a game. And it's just, I know with baseball, it's a different animal, a whole different beast when it comes to structuring a roster. And honestly, you're right. I think you said it a bit ago. We have exceeded expectations, and I don't think the organization expected us to be in this position to be having these tough conversations. I think we all expected us to have a better season this year than we have had in the recent years. But I don't think any of us expected to be in the conversation of winning the division, let alone making the playoffs. Or maybe the other way around, making the playoffs, let alone winning the division. And the fact that we are in that conversation, Mike, you mentioned the Padres, we all wrote them into the best record in the NL, and look what that happened. I mean, and that's maybe a tale of caution when we talk about the Phoenix Suns, where on paper the Padres looked great, like they should be a solid team, but they're not. I don't want to go backwards talking about the Suns, but with the Diamondbacks, man, it's really tough. I would like to see them make some moves, get some help in there, but if they don't, what does the rest of the season look like? Are we still on a trajectory to be a wild card team? It's not a 1-game series anymore. It's now expanded to being a 3-game series. But again, we had that hot start where we weren't getting swept, we weren't getting shut out, and now it seems like every other day we're getting swept in a series. I mean, we dropped it to the Mets, we just got swept by the Reds, and the schedule is not getting too much easier for us. Tallman, I think you mentioned us having not played the Dodgers for a while. I'm pretty sure we got them coming up here in the next month or so, and I just think there's going to be a lot of hard decisions to make, but ultimately, I think some moves have to be made this season, and I'm bouncing all over the place here, but Shohei Ohtani, again, dreaming is free, like you say there, Tallman, and we can hope to get him. And would that solve 2 of our problems with one foul swoop? It absolutely would. But if there's no guarantee that Shohei is going to stay here past this season, I mean, are we going to be able to pay him that 10-year, $1 billion contract or whatever? Absolutely not. So it's just tough, man. And I think, next month, we will be having a very different conversation about hopefully what moves were made, if any, and what the rest of the season looks like. Of course, we're continuing to do our bi-weekly recaps of the Diamondbacks, so make sure you're checking that out over on YouTube. Last things, though, I want to talk about the Diamondbacks and kind of this trade deadline stuff coming up. There have been some other names swirling a little bit. We're about to start this series with the Cardinals, and we'll get a really good look at 2 players in particular, Nolan Arenado and another guy we're very familiar with, Paul Goldschmidt. Tallman, would you like to see either of those guys wearing the white and teal?
I would love to see both of them wearing the white and teal. But the more I think about it, I mean, think about the expectations that were coming from every which way for that St. Louis Cardinals team this year. That's a good group of players they have on that team. I don't think that team's just going to be an ultimate seller and get off of a Goldschmidt or an Arenado. I know Arenado. How old is Arenado?
He's early 30s, I think.
Yeah.
33, okay. 34. He's no spring chicken, though.
Yeah, look at that. Mike's no longer one either. Too much sake. But I just because I think I had the Cardinals being like one of the best teams in the NL too before the season started.
And last in their division.
They've been an absolute disappointment. So do I just don't see that GM just ripping apart that team, because on paper, just like it'd be like the Padres selling at the deadline, even though they're only 6 games out of the wild card, which they're not going to do. It's just an example. But on paper, that team it's good. It's a good ball team. So we can sit here and talk about if I'd like to see. I don't think they get traded, honestly. That's my opinion.
Well, right now, St. Louis is 10 games out of a wild card spot.
They're not doing good.
A massive uphill battle, and one of the worst teams in the NL right now. I think it looks like there's only 3 teams worse than them. I could see him being sellers, to be quite frank with you, because I think they're in a similar situation as us. Honestly, they have some decent bats, but their pitching staff is not quite up to par. So I don't know what adding either of those guys does for this team if we can't resolve the pitching issues.
You know, when I look at those guys, I'm kind of on the same boat with Tallman. I don't think I would be mad to bring in both of them. I lean heavily more towards Nolan Arenado. I think he's had a pretty good year for the Cardinals if you're looking at his stats. I mean, batting .291, 21 homers, 76 RBIs, leads the team in everything. Paul Goldschmidt, though, I think Christian Walker has been pretty more than serviceable at first base. He did win his first Gold Glove last year as well, so he's shown that he's not a defensive liability. So maybe you put Goldschmidt in your everyday DH spot. And we know we've kind of had a revolving door at third base right now, and that was one of our spots that we were looking at. Right? You know, Evan Longoria has been okay, although he did go 0 for 4 today. Josh Rojas, you know, he had a good start, but just hasn't been back. So I think you could plug him in right away and he would be successful. But like you guys said, time will tell, and we will see if the Diamondbacks are truly going for it this year.
And that's the biggest question. Are we truly contenders, or is this team a group of pretenders? And I mean that with all due respect, because again, I can't stress enough, they are still exceeding expectations. Even in this slump, this Diamondbacks team is doing much better than we expected, and I just hope they carry their momentum no matter what happens. Keep the high energy, keep this young core together, and go into next season swinging and making an impact and continuing the progression towards becoming a better team. And then maybe next year's trade deadline is when we pull the trigger and drain our farm system to go all out on it. Or maybe that even happens in the off season and the winter meetings. But guys, you know we're going to keep tabs on this. We got you with live streams and recaps coming every week. There's always something up on our YouTube page. Just search Valley Sports Plug and you'll find us. Also, AZ_VSP on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. We'll keep you updated there as well. But before we get out of here, I want to pass it over to the fellas for their last thoughts and anything they might have on their minds. So, Tallman, I'll give you the floor first.
Oh, man. Not prepared for this. It's too much pressure. Spotlight's on me. I guess we'll give a shout out to Brian Harmon for winning the U.S. Open, his first major win, and that'd be the major to win right there. Aside from the Masters, I guess.
Yeah.
But congrats to him. Sorry for the guy that farted during his tee-off shot. Was it Francis Molinari or something? Yeah. Poor guy pooped himself. He did Archie Bradley. But yeah, great weekend of golf. Too bad it started at like 2 o'clock in the morning, but damn European times.
Right.
But yeah, congrats to him.
Very nice. Mr. Benjamin?
You know, I feel like we might need to start some kind of golf show for Tallman.
Because I know bunker golf show.
Because I know he wants to chat about it. But we're gonna get some more golf talk going here. But yeah, appreciate y'all rocking with us. I know we're still kind of in the dry time. The MLB just got out of the All-Star break, so it's just mid-season form right now. The Mercury have been sucking. And our 2 other favorite teams are in the off season, but football is back in 10 days? Did you say, Tallman?
So 11 days.
11 days till the Hall of Fame game
is the fake football game.
Football's almost here. We'll have a preseason review. We'll have our fantasy football draft live stream coming at you guys. Yeah. So make sure you stay tuned. And like always, we appreciate y'all, man.
Yes, I cannot stress that enough, especially if you're still listening at this point in the podcast. We thank you so much for tuning in and supporting Valley Sports Plug. And we will continue to bring you content, and let us know in the comments if there's anything you disagree with, if there's anything you want us to cover or talk about. It is kind of the slow months, but in the next couple months, it's going to be ramping up. As Mike said, football's right around the corner, and then give it 2-3 months and the Suns will be back in action. So plenty to talk about, of course. But we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We're recording this on July 23rd, 2023, and we will have it out for you in the coming days. Hopefully you're listening to it this week. I want to thank you all for tuning in. For VSP Tallman and Michael Benjamin, I'm Chris Patrick, and we'll see you next time. Peace.